Do you have a problem saying no? Are you always getting caught up in other people's priorities and then wishing that you could take it all back? Well, stick with me because this week I'm going to help you to shift that and move it away forever. Hi, this is Grant Herbert, VUCA Leadership and Sustainable Performance Coach. And today I want to help you to build your personal power by helping you to say yes and no appropriately. Last week we started talking about personal power and we looked at the fact that that's that inner certainty and it's the foundation of all your identity. It's the greatest competency of emotional intelligence because it underpins everything else that you do. We've talked before about this thing called the performance trap, where we perform to get the approval of others. And that being the motive, it doesn't always give you the results that you want. It's an unhealthy motive because if you are looking for that external validation all the time, you may not get it. And we've talked about the fact that it erodes your identity, your true sense of who you believe you are. We talked about the fact that you flip that and build up your identity, your personal power, so that you decide who you are. And you can look in the mirror, metaphorically and physically, and be okay with what you see, knowing that you have things you still need to learn and need to work on, but you're okay with your progress. That shift allows you then to go from a position of self-approval and then perform out of that instead of trying to get it from everybody else. When we're operating in the performance trap, we tend to say yes to things that we could say no to. And unfortunately, we normally do that at the detriment of our own true priorities. I know in my own corporate career that there would be many times where I would say yes to my boss about something in particular, staying back, coming in early, whatever it was. However, what it did was held me back from doing things that I had committed to with my children, with my wife and my family. Every time that happened, there was that sick feeling in the pit of the stomach because your true priorities are what you want to invest your energy into. But because of the belief you have that, well, if I don't say yes to the boss, he's going to think this about me, and therefore it's going to mean that, it can quickly spiral down and all those priorities can be thrown out the window just to get that instant fix of approval. So in learning to say yes and no appropriately, the first thing you need to do is be able to reconcile what's really going on. I said right at the start, do you have problems saying no? And people tell me all the time, I can't say no. I have a problem saying no. And what I want you to understand is that that's incorrect. And we need to flip that and reverse that and remove that, unlearn and rethink that before we can move forward and say yes and no appropriately. You see, you don't have a problem saying no because every time you say yes to someone else out of obligation, you're saying no to one of your own priorities. Everything that you say yes and no to has a counterpart because you can only be one person in one situation in any given time. So by realizing, firstly, I don't have a problem saying no, perhaps I have a priority problem, that's going to give you an accurate understanding of your current reality. And as we know, every time we work out of an accurate understanding, we get to put a strategy together that's going to help us to solve the challenge. So the first thing I want you to do is think about all the things that you are constantly saying yes to and put them through your values and your priorities. And as they filter through, ask yourself these questions. for what purpose and at what cost. So if I was to say yes to my boss when he asked me to stay back for the third time in the week, before I answered that, if I asked myself the question, for what purpose would I say yes? And if the answer to that was because if I don't, my boss might fire me or they'll think this about me, then I can challenge that and I can get a healthier understanding around that. Because if I make a decision based on that, I'm bound to make the wrong one. I'm bound to make one which is going to be detrimental to my true values and priorities. The second thing is to ask the other side, at what cost? And if the cost, for example, is I don't get to go to my son's soccer game that I said I would go to, then I can weigh those things up as to which is the most important. Now, to do this, we need to get our internal dialogue, our mini-me under control. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to help you with that. But let's get the concept and the process understood today, and then we'll keep adding layers as we go. So I'm saying yes to this for this reason. Therefore, this is the cost. Another one might be around my health. By saying yes to sitting down all day watching Netflix, if I look at the purpose of doing that and then I look at the cost of that, I'm getting a true understanding of what's going on. So that's the first thing, is to understand and identify the things that you're saying yes to all the time. The second thing then to do is to run through that process just like I did, and to be able to, in that moment, instead of just saying yes, thinking and putting yourself through those questions, to go, when I say yes to this, I'm saying no to that. And we can do that with things that are taking us away from our priorities, but we can also do it to confirm the things that are good for us. So when I say yes to going for a walk every day, I'm saying no to a stiff body sitting in the office. So being able to put it on either side of the ledger, for what purpose, at what cost, and then truly identifying what, when you say no, you're saying yes to, and vice versa, will help you to get a clearer understanding of what's going on. It'll break that pattern of instantly just going yes or no and filtering it through a logical process for you to make a different decision. Being able to say yes or no appropriately is vital for you to be able to stay strong and healthy and resilient, to reduce stress, and to, in particular, reduce that unhealthy internal dialogue that goes on where you beat yourself up for not investing the energy in the priorities that you say you want to. Being able to have a process to interrupt the pattern and to make different decisions around the things that you're saying yes and no to is what this process is all about. It also is a work in progress. It's something that's going to change and become easier to do as you build up your own identity. And we're going to continue to do that over the coming weeks, and going through that process of unlearning that old behavior and relearning new behavior that you repeat is going to mean that you'll say yes to different things after a while, things that are closer to your own priorities and therefore make you feel good about the choices that you are making. Well, that's it from me for another week. Join me again next week as we add another layer to building this competency of personal power. I'll see you then.